Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first edition of the FJR Director's Cut. I'm Max Learmonth, Managing Partner at the FJR Group. Today I'm joined by a good friend and client, David Cawley, who is the CFO for the UK and US of Social Chain. Dave, how are you?
I'm good, Max. How are you?
Good. So Dave, as I said earlier, couple of questions just to run through and get your thoughts on, what really has been going on in the workplace, employee engagement, and the next couple of months. So in my opinion, COVID has changed the workforce landscape for good. I don't think we'll ever see a return to 5 days a week in an office. But what do you see at Social Chain? What do you see the future of your office? What do you see the future of working environments for you?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, to be honest. It's kind of, when you think back to March and we were all thrown in this and we all had to quickly move from office working to home working, it was kind of a bit of worry, like, can you do it? Can you make it work? And luckily, in Social Chain's perspective, we've handled it really well. I think we were set up for it to work really well, but it's had a huge impact on kind of how you view work and how your working life kind of interacts with your home life as well. So it's definitely a change there that I don't see ever changing. And I think there's good aspects and bad aspects as well. So I think from the employee aspects, I think largely it's good. So I think whereas kind of home working probably would be a nice option to have, that's just going to be the standard now. Maybe it'll be kind of 2-3 days in the office and the rest at home, but that's a benefit. But I think kind of when I look at it from the employee perspective as well, it's definitely got some challenges. If you kind of sat on a 5-year lease on an office with, I can fit 100 people in and you only get 30, 40, 50 people in a day, you kind of question what the value is there. Yeah. So I think there's definitely going to be an impact on kind of what use is the office to the business. And in my view is that there'll always be a use for an office. I think while working from home definitely has its benefits, we're not sat on a train for an hour and a half a day. There's definitely downsides in that you lose that human interaction, which I think you need. I think looking at aspects like business culture, I think that can be hard to build when you're not sat in the company with the rest of your colleagues.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's something that kind of employees are going to have to really think about, I think. And it wouldn't surprise me if kind of the concept of an office changes as well, because I think the value of going into work and kind of sitting at your desk in isolation probably isn't there now, other than kind of a change of scenery for employees. The value of an office now is human interaction. That's what we all want. So it wouldn't surprise me if kind of offices become more of a communal space. Yeah. Rather than a load of desk stations that people work out by themselves. So it's going to be interesting. And I know we both work in Manchester City Centre, so the whole city centre's built for office working really, whether it's kind of the morning coffee, the lunch spot, or the after work bar and restaurant. So kind of if footfall's down 50%, and employees are looking at whether it's worth having those high rent and rates in the city centre, you kind of worry what that means for the wider economy. So it's going to be huge changes.
And mate, you mentioned the human interaction part. That is obviously massive. Pre this week, when we've gone into lockdown 2.0, had you seen people start to return to the office or want to start to be back in the office a couple of days a week? How was that?
Yeah, definitely. So we had around out of about 150 employees, we had about 50 people returning per day. Yeah, and those would normally be mixed throughout the week, depending on what days people would come in. And the kind of common thread to it was that people would kind of have a bit of anxiety with going to work, understandable, whether they're getting on a train with other people, and there's a lot of fear around there at the minute. But when they got into work, they realised kind of what they've been missing out at working from home. So you found that when people kind of made that initial steps coming back to work after a few months, then they'd be coming back each week. And that's when you really saw the benefit from it. And I definitely felt that personally. I didn't go into the office for 3 or 4 months. And when you go back to work, it's kind of like, oh yeah, you remember how nice it was to actually see people and
see people and be in an office.
Yeah, not just be speaking to people through a screen. So it's But obviously we're back in lockdown now, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's all changed again. I mean, another big thing, and probably leads me on to the next question, is around workforce and employee engagement. So, as you said, everybody was thrown into work from home. Some businesses were set up for it, some businesses weren't. How did you manage to keep productivity, employee engagement, culture, health and well-being, which Social Chain have always been big on? How did you manage to keep all of that going in the early part of lockdown?
Yeah, so it's a good point, because I think where Social Chain's set up, where other companies kind of aren't, is that we have an in-house happiness team. So their whole job day to day is kind of improving the happiness of the employees there, and their job switched from kind of creating a happy office environment to constant interaction and communication with employees, day-to-day check-ins, checking people are okay, they've got what they needed. And so Social Chain's kind of been, it's been in the best place to do that, where you think of other companies that don't have that kind of support system in there, and the culture of the business relies on the employees doing it themselves almost. There's no one there with that direct responsibility. I can imagine it'd be really hard, but it's definitely been tough. When you're not there speaking to people face to face, it's having that engagement is difficult, and when you're restricting those engagements to set slots in the day, I think you lose that natural interaction. But it's something we've coped with, but it's not perfect. It's something we're still working at and trying to find different ways to keep everyone kind of invested.
Yeah. And from a culture point of view, because you mentioned that earlier, being able to build and enhance culture in this type of environment is challenging. I know it's something that FJR as a business, like, we've really, really tried to do, because everybody was and is so bought into the culture. How have you managed to deal with that? Because that's been a challenge for everyone.
Yeah, so we've brought on an in-house development coach, which has some really positive feedback. So we've got a guy who works with a range of people. So if anyone in Social Chain wants to speak to him and learn how to improve themselves and be better at what they do, then we have a guy there that can do that, which is quite a unique offering in the market. And yeah, it's just kind of converting what we do. So every Friday, the company would, in the past, in the office, get together. They'd grab a drink at the bar, and we'd talk about what client successes we've had in the week, who's joining the business, who's saying goodbye, and we'll have a huge get together. That's now converted to virtual, which still has real benefit, but it's not the same. So it's difficult, but it's kind of, you've got to make the best of the situation. I think Social Chain are kind of I think we're set up to do that the best we can do, really.
Yeah, it sounds like as a business, you really have had employees first and front of mind throughout the whole thing. I mean, the idea of the development coach and then pivoting the happiness team, that's brilliant. It's definitely something that I think is great to have. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. It's been there since kind of the start. It's the core of what the business is, really.
Yeah. Oh, mate, no, brilliant. And mate, look, finally, it's been a crazy year. There's no other way to look at it, to phrase it. What do you think the next 6 months looks like, just for the business, for the UK landscape? What do you think is going to happen over the next 6 months?
Yes, well, I suppose it's kind of a hard question to answer, isn't it? When we're kind of 9 months after it all starts and we're still in a national lockdown. Hard to judge what the next 6 months like, but I think from an economy point of view, it's going to be interesting. When you look at, when I talk about the kind of the office spaces and kind of employers thinking about where they want to locate, and I think, and yes, I have quite a few friends who live in the city centre, and they're saying a lot of people are moving out to suburbs, and people are valuing space more and outdoor space. So it wouldn't surprise me if that you start to see maybe a movement of kind of value from the city centres over to the outskirts. So whereas the kind of Manchester City Centre could have some downsides, it wouldn't surprise me if the kind of the suburbs and the towns around there might see an upturn with people moving towards it, and maybe businesses moving there and local businesses having the larger kind of resident base to work from. So I mean, that's a lot to happen in 6 months, but we'll see. So it's hard to tell. Yeah, but I mean, from a business point of view, social change go from strength to strength. So a lot of what we do is kind of mirrored with the economy. So we specialize in digital marketing. So you will find that more marketing moves towards digital from out of home. Our e-commerce business is doing really well. So our fastest growing pillars at the minute are health and well-being and home and living, which kind of makes sense. I think a lot of people now thinking more about their health, and when they're spending 24 hours a day at home, it's they're looking around what's around them and investing in their home space when they're not sitting in an office all day. So yeah, I see these trends continuing, really.
Brilliant. Well, Dave, look, I've taken up far too much of your time already. You are a very busy man, so thank you very much for being on the first edition of the FJR Directors Cup. Really appreciate that, mate. Thank you very much.
No worries, Max. Enjoyed it.